Chioma conspired against her friend Zuri just so she could have a man and live a better life with him in the United Kingdom. This is a story about love, but not the kind that comes easy. It's about determination, envy, and the kind of betrayal you don't see coming. And right at the center of everything is a young girl named Zuri. Zuri is 25 years old, who recently graduated with a BSc Law from the University of Port Harcourt. She's effortlessly beautiful, a quiet, striking beauty that doesn't try but always stand out. She has 3 friends, Ewa, Sasha, and Chioma. Ewa is a slim beauty with light energy and is always very expressive. Sasha, she's the quiet, elegant one, full of inner conflict. And Chioma, a beauty queen herself, with inner tension always hiding behind her fake smiles. She also graduated from the University of Port Harcourt. Chioma has always been jealous of Zuri. While they were growing up, Zuri always got every scholarship they competed for. Chioma didn't always say it. In fact, she almost never did. But growing up, there was something she couldn't ignore. Why is it always her? What exactly does she have that I don't? And the truth? She didn't hate Zuri, but she didn't like how things always seemed to favor her. Zuri didn't have anything. She lost her father early. It had always been just her and her mother. They lived all by themselves, navigating life together with hopes that one day she would have a breakthrough and live the life of her dreams abroad. There are some places that look quiet on the outside, but inside, a lot is always happening. Choba was one of those places. A small community in Port Harcourt, but full of stories, and in that place, all 4 girls lived and grew up together. Before anything happened, before all the wahala, before the lies, there was just life. Normal life, the kind where you sit outside when evening comes, you talk about nothing serious, and somehow it still feels like something. That's where Zuri was, right there in the middle of all that good life. So one afternoon, Zuri's mother turned from her sewing machine and she called out across the room, "Zuri, if this case won't solve the world's problem, at least come check the soup before it solves itself." And Zuri, still deep inside her books, barely lifted her eyes and said, "Just one more page, Mama. I'm almost understanding the clause structure." Her mother laughed softly and shook her head. "Clause structure again? This your law, eh? One day you go just wake up, be judge, I swear." Now, Ewa, she was a different kind of person. One day, she leaned over Zuri's shoulder, squinting at those heavy case notes with those wild, curious eyes. And she asked, "Zuri, how you take they understand all this big English like this, sef?" Zuri smiled softly without fully looking up, and she said, "You don't understand it all at once. You just stay with it until it makes sense." Between the 4 of them, they would talk about everything: school, the future, and when you saw them together like that, laughing, gisting, you would never think anything was wrong. Not at all. You would hear Zuri laughing. "Wait Ewa, you actually talked that one to your lecturer. You get mine though." And Ewa would throw her head back, completely unapologetic. "Please, I don't get shame like you now." And Chioma would smile too, but not always for the same reasons. Because here is the truth. Chioma was tired of this kind of living. The same routine every day, the waiting. She had graduated, and yet, here she was, still in the same place. And sometimes you could hear it in the way she spoke. She would say, "I cannot continue like this. After everything, I no go to come back just to sit down like nothing changed." Zuri heard everything Chioma was saying. She understood it, but she didn't carry it the same way. Where Chioma looked at their situation and saw a trap, Zuri looked at it and saw something temporary, something that would pass. And that difference, as small as it looked, was already changing how their lives would unfold. Then one fateful afternoon, something came into the village, and from that moment, everything started to change. Not by force, nothing was pushing anybody, but sometimes something arrives and it just reveals things that were already there, waiting. His name is Desmond, a modern African elite who has lived abroad all his life. He is 35 years old, composed, very observant, and emotionally contained. He has just come back from the United Kingdom, where he graduated with his master's degree in investment banking. He had been gone for years, different country with a different life. But now he was back, and whether people said it or not, his presence changed things immediately. The car hadn't even finished stopping when his father stepped out. This man was proud, loud, and happy, the way a father is when something he has been praying for has finally happened. He wasn't hiding anything. That kind of joy you cannot hide even if you try. He looked around at the people who were already gathering, raised his hand, and announced, "My son don't come back, oh, from UK after all these years." And then, just when the noise was already rising, he added the final piece. "We go celebrate them. We go party. Everybody must come." You see, in a village like this one, news does not work. It runs from one houses to the next, from one street to another. And by the time the same story reaches the third person, it has already grown. One person would lean into another and whisper, "Oxford, oh!" And the next one would reply, "They say him study for UK, oh, and he never married." That last part, that one carried the most weight. And just like that, the whole energy of the place changed. Suddenly, every girl had somewhere to be. Every dress had a purpose. This was not just a party. This had become an opportunity. Zuri heard the same news. She understood what it meant, but she did not react the same way. No urgency, no pressure, just curiosity, because not everybody is running after the same thing. And Zuri, she knew what she was running after. Same village, same event, same opportunity in front of everybody, but completely different minds going into it. By the time the party started, the whole village had transformed. You could feel it everywhere. The music, the laughter, people moving in every direction. But if you looked a little deeper, underneath all of that noise and celebration, there was something else. Because everybody who came that night came with something in mind. If you could hear what people were thinking, and believe me, it wasn't hard to guess. It would sound something like, "Make him notice me. Just one conversation, that's all I need from him." And one by one, they all moved closer where he was standing. Now, Desmond noticed all of it. He was not confused. He understood exactly what kind of energy was in that room, and none of it moved him. Chioma noticed too. You could see her thinking in real time. She positioned herself just right. She timed her movement, even her smile. And somewhere in that moment, if you listen closely, you would almost hear her saying to herself, "Just once, make this thing work now." Ewa tried too. She walked up to Desmond with that wide, bright smile and said, "Hi, you be the person where everybody they talk about, though." Desmond smiled, polite. He was respectful, but not present. You could see the difference. And then there was Zuri, who came to the same party as everybody else and went into a completely different direction. While every other person was trying to be seen, Zuri was paying attention, not to Desmond, but to people. She saw an elderly woman who had been standing for too long, and she walked over and said gently, "Mama, you don't stand for too long. Come and sit down." And when she saw someone who needed a hand, she just moved. "Wait, let me help you with that." That's just who she is. And that is when it happened. Desmond looked up, and this time, he did not look away. And that is the thing about real people. You don't have to go looking for them. They show in what they choose to do when nobody is watching them. At that point, something had already shifted. And the thing about moments like that is, they don't come with any announcement, but they change everything that comes after them. You know how sometimes in the middle of all that noise, you just need to step away, just to breathe, just to be by yourself for a moment. That is where Zuri went. Not to be noticed, not because she was waiting for anybody, just to breathe. And somehow, that is exactly where he found her. Now, this is the part where most people are expecting something big to happen. Some smooth line, some big moves to impress her. But that is not what happened at all. He didn't come with any of that. He just walked up to her, and the way he spoke, it was simple, calm, like somebody who is just genuinely curious. He looked at Zuri and said, "You left the party." And Zuri, she didn't even turn around immediately. She just replied, "I was there long enough." That was it. No one trying to perform anything. Just two people talking like normal human beings. And sometimes, that is the most powerful thing. Here is where Zuri was different from everybody else. Most people, the first thing they would have done was ask about him. "What do you do? How long are you staying?" But Zuri didn't do any of that. Instead, he turned toward him and asked, after being away that long, was it worth it? She was not impressed by him. She was interested in him. That got his attention in a way nothing else that evening had. Desmond paused because he didn't expect that question. Nobody had asked him that all evening. He thought about it for a moment and said, "Depends on what you mean by what it. Is it money, exposure, or actual impact?" Zuri didn't hesitate at all. "Impact," he gave a slow nod. Then he opened up. "That's actually why I went into investment banking. I wanted to understand how money money really moves. So I could help people build something that lasts, not just make quick profit. He paused briefly, then added something more honest. But the truth is, there's always a legal side to it that people don't fully understand. And that part, I know I don't know enough yet. Zuri's expression shifted a little. Now the conversation had somewhere real to go. Zuri leaned slightly forward and said, a lot of investment decisions ignore legal structure at the foundation, and that's usually where problems start. Desmond blinked once, impressed. He looked at her differently now. He asked, you studied law? She nodded, and just like that, we were no longer strangers. What started as one question became a whole conversation. Then Zuri said, you'd be surprised how many deals fail because of overlooked compliance risk. Desmond nodded and replied, and you'd be surprised how often people ignore that until the money is already gone. They were not trying to impress each other. They were just aligned. And that kind of alignment, it doesn't happen every day. And that is the part that people don't always understand about attraction. It is not always something loud. It is not always dramatic. Sometimes, it is just two people who finally feel like they are speaking the same language. That is what this was. But they were not alone, because from a distance, other people were watching everything that was happening, and what they were saying, they did not like it. Up until that moment, Chioma had told herself she still had time, she still had a chance. But standing there, watching them talk, something settled in her chest, because this was not random anymore. This was real, and real things are much harder to compete with. That feeling when something happens right in front of your eyes and you just cannot unsee it. That is where Chioma was, because this was not guessing anymore. She did not have to imagine anything. She saw it clear and direct, and there was no way to pretend she did not. At first, it was just a small thing, a tightness somewhere in her chest, something she tried to push away. She told herself, this one don't mean anything, Joe. Not just one conversation. But that kind of feeling, it does not stay small for long. Ewa noticed first, not everything, but enough. She leaned slightly toward Chioma and asked, Chioma, you dey okay? Chioma didn't even look at her. I'm fine. That tone, it said everything she was refusing to say out loud. Sasha didn't say anything, but she felt it, because sometimes you don't need anybody to explain what is happening. You just feel when something has shifted, and this shift, it was not a small one. And then the feeling changed. It moved from discomfort to something else, because in Chioma's mind, this was not just happening to her, it was being taken from her. She said to herself, she don't even know what she dey do, and she don't already dey get everything. That is when it stopped being about Zuri. After that, she didn't go back to them. Not to Zuri, not to any part of that conversation, because something had already changed inside her. And when that kind of change happens, you don't go back the same way. Later that night, when the noise had settled a little, Chioma called Sasha and Ewa. She looked at them and said, we need to talk. That tone was not a casual one. At first, it didn't land the way she expected. Ewa frowned and asked, about waiting. Sasha shifted her weight and said, Chioma, what are you trying to say? Because even before they understood what it was, they could both feel it. Something about this was not normal. Chioma didn't rush. She let the silence do some work first. She looked at both of them and said, if we don't do something now about Zuri and Desmond, we'll regret it. That was the moment the line had been crossed. Ewa didn't fully understand yet, but she was listening. Sasha already felt something was wrong, but she didn't stop it. And sometimes, that is how things begin. Not with somebody saying yes, just with silence, where there should have been resistance. Now, some things don't need any announcement. They just grow as they walk. Desmond glanced at her and said with a light smile, always think this deeply about things. Zuri smiled slightly and said, only when it matters. And with them, it always seemed to matter. And of course, people noticed. In a village, they always do. Two people don't move the same way these two were moving without becoming somebody's topic of conversation. One woman would lean toward another. I see them again this morning, Them they always date together now. It wasn't hidden anymore. But for Zuri, it didn't feel like anything heavy. Just moments, small ones, walking, talking, understanding each other. Sometimes, Desmond would come to see Zuri, just to sit, to talk, to understand her world the same way she was understanding his. And slowly, their worlds started to blend. Looking around her modest compound, he asked, you built all this with your mother? Zuri nodded. We didn't have a choice. That answer stayed with him for a long time. But while something was growing in one place, something else was changing somewhere else. Zuri tried to keep things the way they were. One day, she looked at Chioma and said, Chioma, you've been quiet these days. Chioma barely looked up and said, I've just been busy. That was new. And Zuri knew something felt wrong. Because to Chioma, this wasn't just something that was happening. It felt like something was being taken from her. Not logically, but emotionally. That is how it felt. And emotions don't always wait for logic before they decide how to behave. And Sasha was carrying something heavier now, because she knew, not everything yet, but enough. Enough to feel uncomfortable. Enough to start questioning what she was part of. You would watch Zuri sometimes and you could almost hear what she was thinking. This one no right. But wetin I go do? And that question, it was getting louder every day. At this point, it wasn't hidden anymore. Not really. You could see it. The connection between Zuri and Desmond, the attention, the difference, and the honest truth is, not everyone could handle saying that. By the next morning, everything looked normal again. The music was gone, lights were down, the noise had faded. But the thing most people didn't realize was some things don't end when the party ends. Some things start there. Zuri woke up like any other day. No suspicion, nothing to warn her. Because the truth is, you don't prepare for something you don't even know is coming. But somewhere else, things were already moving. Because Chioma wasn't waiting anymore. She had made her decision. And once someone like that makes a decision, they don't hesitate. Chioma didn't need much, just the right person. Someone who wouldn't ask too many questions and didn't care about what happened after. And in a place like this, those kinds of people are never far away. She didn't explain everything. She didn't need to. She kept it simple. She looked at him and said, I just need you to say something, that's all. Just say you be her boyfriend. Lie make the guy believe you say you be Zuri boyfriend. The man looked at her, not confused, calculating. And waiting I go collect. This kind of arrangement, it was not new to him. Chioma didn't argue, didn't negotiate long. It wasn't about that. It was about timing. She told him, you'll be fine. Just say it like you mean it. And just like that, it was done. Just a decision that would change everything. When Chioma told them what she had done, it didn't sit right. Ewa hesitated and said, Chioma, you sure for this thing? Sasha didn't even try to hide her worry. This will not be good idea at all. Oh. And for a second, it almost stopped there. But Chioma didn't back down. She leaned in slightly and said, so we just go sit down and watch. After everything, that word, everything, it carried more weight than it should have. And just like that, the doubt started shifting. Ewa didn't say yes. Sasha didn't say yes. But neither of them said no. And sometimes, that is all it takes. Everything was ready. The words had been chosen. The person had been picked. All that was left was the moment. And the thing about moments like that, they don't wait for you to be ready. They just happen. Just a normal afternoon, Zuri and Desmond working together, and sometimes that is exactly when life decides to change on you. They didn't even see him coming because there was nothing about him that said anything important was about to happen. Until he opened his mouth, he called out, Zuri! Just that one word, but the tone of it made everything stop. Zuri stopped, not because she was afraid, but because she recognized the face and couldn't connect it to this moment. She said carefully, yes? There was a pause, just long enough to feel uncomfortable. He looked at her and said, you think say you fit just ignore me like that? Zuri blinked. What are you talking about? But he didn't slow down. That was never part of the plan. He continued, after everything, you dey behave like you don't know me. Now, the moment had changed completely. It wasn't just confusing anymore. It was dangerous. Because once a lie is said with enough confidence, it starts to sound like the truth. And that is when it hit her, not fully, but enough. This was not a misunderstanding. This was something else entirely. She said, almost searching for the right words, no, that's not. I don't even know what you are saying. Her voice changed because she could feel it now. Something was very wrong. Desmond didn't speak immediately. He stood there, watching, trying to understand what was happening in front of him. Because when something doesn't make sense, you look for the piece you are missing. He said quietly, you said you didn't know him. That wasn't an accusation, but it was not support either. And the actor didn't stop because stopping would break everything. He stepped slightly closer and said, so all those times, them don't mean anything. You just use me and move on. Now it sounded personal. That is how lies work best. Zuri turned to Desmond because in that moment, she needed him to understand more than anything. She said, Desmond, but he had already stepped back. And that small movement, it said everything. And just like that, everything changed. Just one moment, and everything they had built together started falling apart. After that moment, nobody said anything for a while. Not because there was nothing to say, but because nobody knew where to begin. And sometimes, silence carries more meaning than any words can. Desmond didn't argue, didn't ask more questions, didn't raise his voice. He just left. And honestly, that hurt more than anything could have said. Zuri didn't follow him, not because she didn't want to, but because something inside her head had already paused. That moment when your mind is still trying to catch up with what just happened, that is where she was, still standing but no longer steady. The walk home felt longer than usual, not because the road had changed, but because she had. Every step was heavier, full of questions she didn't have answers to. She kept asking herself, how did this even happen? Why didn't he believe me? When she got home, nothing had changed, but it didn't feel the same. Because sometimes, what changes is not the place around you, it is the thing inside you. Her mother saw it immediately, not the details, just the shift in her mood. She looked at her daughter and said softly, Mama, you don't come back? Zuri nodded slightly and said, I'm fine. That word, fine, it almost never means what it sounds like. Later that night, when everything was quiet, that is when it really settled. During the day, you can keep yourself busy, you can distract yourself. At night, you feel everything. And then she stopped holding it in, just quietly, the kind of crying that doesn't need any sound. She said one word, why? Because sometimes that is the only question left. And somewhere else, life was still moving, but not the same way, because even when you get what you thought you wanted, it doesn't always feel the way you expected it to. Sasha couldn't sit with what she knew because it wasn't just a plan anymore. It was real. She had seen Zuri's face, that moment when everything dropped from her eyes, and that image, it wasn't going anywhere. She kept thinking, this one no right, but how I go fix am now? And that question, it was only getting louder. Sasha didn't sleep well that night. Not because she couldn't, but because her mind refused to let her. That feeling when something keeps playing back in your head. And no matter how you turn, it won't go away. That is where she was. It wasn't the plan itself that was troubling her. It was what happened because of it. Sasha kept turning in the dark, but some images, they don't fade just because you want them to. By morning, the feeling hadn't left. If anything, it was louder than before. And at some point, you either silence your conscience or you listen to it. Sasha sat up slowly, and this time, she decided to listen to her conscience. She went to Chioma first to stop this from going further, but Chioma was already somewhere else mentally. Chioma looked at her and said, you dey overthink this thing, it don't already happen. That answer told Sasha everything she needed to know. And right there, something shifted in Sasha because there is a point where loyalty stops being support and starts being silence in the face of something wrong. Sasha had reached that point. She didn't waste any more time after that because now waiting felt worse than doing something and she already knew where to find Zuri. Zuri wasn't expecting Sasha, not like this. She looked up and said quietly, Sasha? There was a pause, the kind that carries something heavy. Sasha tried to speak, but the words didn't come immediately because saying the truth meant accepting what that truth would do. She started, Zuri, She stopped, took a breath, then tried again. She looked Zuri in the eye and said, that thing that happened, it wasn't real. Zuri didn't move. She didn't react right away because sometimes truth takes a moment to land. And just like that, everything changed again. But now Zuri understood one thing clearly. This was not a mistake that happened. This was something that was planned. Sasha didn't stop at telling Zuri because she knew telling Zuri was not enough. The truth doesn't fix anything if it doesn't reach the person who needs it most. She went looking for Desmond. Desmond wasn't expecting her. He looked at her and said, Sasha, she didn't waste time because dragging the truth only makes it heavier. She said it plainly. She told him, that thing that happened, it was planned. Desmond didn't respond right away because some truths, they don't settle instantly. Desmond didn't just accept it because he had seen something with his own eyes, and what you have seen is hard to undo. He said, you are saying all of it was fake? Sasha nodded, and this time, there was no hesitation in her. And that was enough to go looking. So Desmond did something that most people don't do. He went to find the truth himself. And that's when he found the actor. He didn't need many questions because what he saw said everything. The man was at a local palm wine spot, laughing, money in his hand, surrounded by company, carrying on like nothing had happened at all because to him, nothing had. But Desmond didn't just stand there watching. He stepped forward. He looked at the man and said, you, stand up. What exactly happened that day? The man looked up and immediately, something in his confidence shifted. And just like that, the whole heart started to break because people like him, they don't hold pressure for long. He shrugged and said, nah, nothing serious. Then pay me to talk am. I never even see that girl before for my life. No guilt. And he said like it meant absolutely nothing. And that was it. No more confusion because hearing it hit harder than saying it ever could. Desmond didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. Everything was clear now. Desmond exhaled. And this time, it wasn't confusion. It was regret. Now he could see it. Not just the lie, but his own part in it. How quickly he stepped back, how he was not able to defend her, and how easily he doubted her. He said to himself quietly, I didn't even give her a chance. And that realization is state. He didn't delay, because when you know you are wrong, waiting doesn't fix anything. He went in search of Zuri, and when he found her, he said, Zuri, I'm sorry. No defense, no excuse. Zuri listened. She didn't rush him or interrupt him, because some apologies, he let them finish. And when he was done, she nodded slightly and said, I hear you. I just didn't expect that from you. But still, she chose understanding. And for the first time since everything had happened, Zuri smiled freely again, because sometimes being properly seen again is all it takes. And in that moment, they didn't overthink it. They just moved toward each other and held on. Not because everything was perfect again, but because they chose each other anyway. But Zuri wasn't done yet, because for her, this wasn't only about Desmond. There was something else she needed to do, something other. When she found Chioma, she didn't come with anger. She just spoke. He looked at her and said calmly, Chioma, I forgive you. Chioma froze, because that was the last thing she was expecting. Zuri continued, I didn't even know you felt that way. Things just worked out for me. I didn't think it would hurt you like this. That kind of honesty, it goes deeper than any anger could ever reach. And just like that, Chioma couldn't hold it in anymore. Because guilt, when it is real, it does not stay quiet forever. And through everything she was feeling, she said, I'm sorry. I didn't think it would go that far. And this time, she meant it. It didn't fix everything right away, but it opened something. Because healing doesn't always begin with everything being perfect. Sometimes it begins with honesty. And as for Desmond, he didn't just come back with an apology. He came back with clarity. He stood in front of her and said, with everything that's happened, I've been thinking, I don't want to do this halfway. I want you with me in the UK as my partner, my wife. That moment, it wasn't about escape, it was about choice. You see, jealousy doesn't always destroy things in a loud, obvious way. Sometimes it works quietly, through silence, through assumptions, through things that are never said out loud. But the truth always finds its way out. And when it does, what matters most is not only what was broken. What matters most is who is willing to stand up and make things right.